What is up, everybody? We are live here on Deep Look. It is Wednesday, July 9th. We are outside of our normal time slot. We're also 5 minutes late because, well, I've been on vacation, and so it's just been a little chaotic. I traveled back to New York yesterday. Keith, Newark Airport, not the place you want to fly in or out of right now. Not going to lie. 6-hour delay getting back yesterday, but that's how it goes. Great to see you, Keith. How are things?
They're good. They're good. Shout out to the Discord thread we had about worst airports, in which Newark was mentioned prominently.
Oh yeah,
that was a fun thread. I guess for those of us who travel. Shout out to Brent R. Pointer also for smacking that first. It's been good. Edward and I had a good show without you. And I hope you enjoyed your trip to Europe for under 24 championships. I'm sure it was very comfortable, light workload, lots of sleep and rest, I'm sure.
Hey, you know what? I will say 10 a.m. start for the day makes it a lot easier to feel like you're not completely crushed with sleep deprivation. I still didn't sleep enough, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I think the late night lifestyle of Logroño, Spain, and eating dinner at 10 p.m. or later probably contributed more to sleep deprivation than just the tournament schedule itself. But yeah, Spain was good. I mean, for the most part, we had really nice weather. It was hot. It was very hot. But a fun tournament until the finals. I'm sure you guys already talked about it, but man, just 3 straight completely uncompetitive games.
Well, that's what you get up against the U.S., right? that was definitely eventually the cards.
This is the best U24 teams the U.S. has ever put on the field. I don't even think it's that close. I don't think there was any chance for other countries to win.
Well, Edward and I have been. I've been consistently hitting Edward with "I'm disappointed and disgusted" in things. So, as Tobin DeCrana put it after the game. So, at least we've got the memes. At least we've got the memes.
Hey, and if France had their actual best U24 players all on that roster, I think they would have beaten the U.S. in that game and probably would have won the tournament.
It's fun to speculate, ain't it?
So we got a lot to do today. We're going to be breaking down the club season. We got our club preview. We've already got PEC East in the books. PEC West is on the way. We'll be streaming at the Pro League Challenge West. But before we get to that, Keith, you want to chat a little bit about this open letter to the Ultimate community from CEO Kevin Erlenbach of USA Ultimate.
Well, some folks have reached out to me and wanted to talk about it because this marketing email, I guess, kind of went out, and it's one of the first things that we've gotten from Kevin Erlenbach addressing the community, and so I think there was some interest in okay, what does he have to say? And it wasn't much, unfortunately. It was kind of just it's a great community, and USA Ultimate is an important part of it, and so are you because you're a member of USA Ultimate. And they're certainly not the first or only organization to put out a somewhat generic sounding. I don't know. A press release feels like a strong. It's an open letter. It says, but there was some thought in our Discord. There was debate about whether this was generated by AI. Some folks posting screenshots of AI detectors saying that this was 97, 98% AI.
Listen,
did you catch all this?
I did. I caught up on the Discord yesterday. It has AI energy. I'm not going to lie to you. I think the thing is that this is the way that press releases are written. It is going to feel like AI because that's how AI is trained on this. So I don't really care one way or the other, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't totally understand what this is supposed to be. I mean, it's basically like, hey, get a membership because helps us, uh, you know, spend money on things that we care about. And like, I don't, I don't disagree with any of that. I think Kevin has a chance to do a great job as the leader of this organization. Um, and I mostly want to see like, where do they want to take things? This doesn't answer that for me. That's my only issue here. Like, sure, become a member and support the sport by giving money to the national organization. It's a reasonable goal. But what does the national organization want to do? What are they? What are their like? You can't. We've talked about this many times. You can't have a million goals. Like, we need to focus in on what we actually want to prioritize. And sometimes I feel like USAU has a hard time figuring that out. And it's still, for me, a little early in Kevin's tenure to have any real feeling on like what direction they're going to go. But at some point, we got to pick a direction. Like, you want to really spend a lot of energy and money on youth. That makes sense to me. But it has to come away from other things that you're doing potentially, because you don't have limitless funds. So, this is, I don't know. This is like just bland.
I asked Gemini to write me a letter of this nature.
How did it do?
And here's an excerpt. I want to emphasize the bold, immense value our organization provides, and more importantly, the value, bold again, you bring to it. Every membership, every volunteer hour, every cheer from a teammate contributes to the collective energy that propels us forward. We're more than just a registry of players. We are a dynamic network of enthusiasts, athletes, coaches, and volunteers dedicated to the growth and enjoyment of Ultimate. Yeah, I mean, I can't say it's almost indistinguishable. That's not to say that this was written by, I agree with you that this is kind of chicken and egg situation. But I also am like, I also with you, we've talked about this on the show. Like, I'm still waiting. Are we going to get a roadmap that actually like lays out the action items that are being taken to address the strategic plan that they created? Like, I get that we got the top line items. It was like, all right, we're going to have to actually wait a while to get the programs that are going to associate with this, the actual things that we're going to do to help achieve the goals, which are all, big top line goals. Are we going to get some of that stuff? Like, I would like to get the communication about what the org is doing that goes a little bit deeper than this sort of thing. But I certainly don't blame Kevin. He's still new. Like, that's fine.
I hear you, but I actually want Kevin to like take the reins and like not like he's been doing a lot of like conversations with people and listening, and like that's all really good. But as a CEO, you get to set the direction and like set it. Take command and do what you want. You do what you think makes sense. Like, if you ask everyone in Ultimate what they think, you're going to get a bunch of different answers based on people's perspective. If you talk to youth people, they're going to want you to do youth stuff. If you talk to club players, they're going to want you to do club stuff. On and on and on. I just feel like there's so much opportunity for like more bold action from USAU on many categories of like how they're doing things. And I want to see Kevin put his fingerprints on the organization. Even if he makes a mistake, I want him to take charge and be like, we're not just going to keep rolling status quo as I try to figure out what's going on. It's like, okay, you've had your chance to talk to everybody. You're looking at the org. You understand the general like financial state of the organization and where the sport is. But like, let's go in a direction that you believe is the right one. Take us there. If you're wrong, you'll get fired.
I think a great first step in that direction would be coming on the show and doing picks with us. Let's get some spice flying from Kevin. Like, maybe he's like, I don't care. People think I'm rooting for one team or another.
If you lose the picks competition, then we get to be the CEO for 1 week.
No, we get one. We get to make one decision. We get one key decision.
Yeah,
Charlie and I get to make it on the show.
All right,
come on, we can come up with some good stuff.
So let's get to our trivia question of the week.
All right, Charlie, we've come back around to real or fake club team name. I have selected a list of team names, some of which are real teams that have qualified for the club championships at some point, and some of which I made up. So we'll see. Last time you did quite well at this. So I hope that I stepped my game up. Those of you playing at home, feel free to follow along as we travel down memory lane to find some wacky team names from teams past. Producer Lindsay Sue, hit us with our first team name. The first one is Friend Zoners, real team that made nationals or a team I made up.
No, that's fake. Because
All right, Charlie's one
if
for
this
one.
team had made nationals, if this team had made nationals, it would have been in the last like 5 to 10 years, and I would have already known them. Because friend zone is not a thing 10 years ago.
You never. It definitely was part of when
don't know
I was
when
young. Like
I don't
that was
know.
like 20
I don't
years
know
ago.
when it came.
But
I
you're
don't,
right.
maybe
You're
I'm
right
wrong
this
about
one
that,
is fake.
but yeah, okay.
On to our next one. Blah. Real team name or one I made up.
No. Real.
Ding ding. This is a real one, Charlie. I'm not even gonna have you guess where it's from, but it's South Bend. I don't think you ever would have guessed that. So
And they went to
you're all right.
nationals?
That one time at least, maybe twice. I'd
Wow.
have to go back and look.
That's crazy.
Do you want to guess the division?
Men's.
It was mixed. You probably
Okay.
always should guess
Might get
mixed, to be honest.
I was gonna guess mixed, and I still I changed my mind for no reason.
Oh, he actually they actually qualified twice, including making quarters in 2003. Shout out Blah.
2003. Okay. Blah.
All right. Next up, tracksuit.
Fake.
That is indeed fake. Tracksuit is not real. I made that one up. All right, next one.
Again, it feels too
You're on fire
modern.
so far.
You can't fool me, Keith.
Tattoo hottie.
Oh, this could go either way. I'm gonna say fake.
This one is real.
No way.
Tattoo hottie. A mixed team, I want to say, from New York. Your own hometown. Yes, New York. Tattoo hottie qualified for nationals twice in about the same time frame, 2000 and 2001. So, on to the next one. No ale.
Too weird to have made it up. Real.
Charlie, I got you again. This one's all me.
God damn it.
No ale. Made it up.
No
I
ale.
learned last time. Sometimes you gotta get weird. All right, what's next? Savager 7.
This is a total toss up for me. I'm gonna say fake.
Shout out Matt McElduff, who says we should do horse or frisbee team name. That also could be a good version of this. Savager 7 is fake. You did get it. Max Charles also with a good potential future mailbag question. Which modern team name will sound the most fake 10 years from now? I don't know what the count we're at, but Lizzie should keep it rolling. Defense. DA space fence.
Defense. I'll say real.
You are correct. This one is in fact real. Defense from San Francisco. I think a women's division team in San Francisco. Some of these teams are like 1 year teams. They like sprouted up and disappeared. I think defense is one of those.
Defense. What? Let's see. There were some Hall of Famers on that team. Nicole
Yeah, no wonder
Strout
they made
Beck,
it.
Karen Lucido, and JD Donnelly.
1996, they made quarters. That was their only year at nationals.
They probably just changed names the next year, right? Just like a Bay team
Very
for
possible. Very
one
possible.
season or something. All right. Defense.
3
I
more.
like that.
Yo Mama.
Did a team called Yo Mama make nationals? I'll say real. I'll say real. I feel like this one could be real.
It not only could be real, it is in fact real. A DC team in the men's division that reached nationals in 1987.
Wow.
I'm surprised that you got
They did
defense and Yo Mama. I thought one of
they
these
had Yo
you would,
Mama. They had Yo Mama jokes in 1987. That's crazy.
they go way back. Uh Producer
Let's keep
Lisa
it going,
Sue's
huh?
mom actually anyway,
Oh, nice.
small rackages.
Small rackages. What the hell is that? I'll. This is like a women's team. I'll say real. It's so weird to come
Really?
up with that as a fake name.
I mean, you're right. It is a real team.
When did they go to nationals?
When did small rackages go to nationals? This is another early 2000s team. 2007 Iowa small rackages qualified in the women's division.
Crazy.
Last one.
Yeah.
Bort.
I'm gonna say fake, but I don't know. It seems real.
It doesn't know. I mean, you guessed right at least. It is fake. Bort, not real. I thought this is my last time the one fake one that got you was fart with 2 A's.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
that inspired Bort this time. But another nice score for Charlie.
All right. Good stuff. It's surprisingly hard to pick these. All right. We're gonna start previewing the club season. It is underway, but it still feels early. I mean, at PEC East, there were people wearing painted t-shirts, and they like if they were on streamed fields like USAU was like, no, you have to wear real jerseys. But that's the energy we have in a late June TCT event. So where do we want to start, Keith? We got 3 divisions to do. Where do you want to begin?
Why don't we take it to the women's division first this time around?
Okay. So
Uh,
we have our preseason power rankings out. Oh, do we want to start with that and kind of like talk about things from top of the power ranked? I kind of leave it to you. We actually have an update post PC.
Right. We do have a post PEC update, and I think it's fine for us to kind of incorporate what has happened at PEC East. Basically, is the only key tournament that's taken place because it did make some changes, but not a ton. The big change being Parcha coming up into the top 10. But when we look at the club power rankings, our staff when they came out with the club primer, which is out, really identified that it is as a big 3 year. Fury, Scandal, Root Squad. Those 3 teams are atop the power rankings yet again. And to me, that is the big question about this year. Is it a big 3 year? Are these the 3 teams to beat, or is there another challenger, or does it go deeper than that, or is it thinner than that? Maybe it shouldn't even be 3. This to me is the key question going into this women's division season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, if you, I don't think you don't have to look too far back to understand that Fury, Scandal, and Brute are going to be championship contenders. Like, they're always good. And with the level that Claire Trope has been at, Scandal's going to be relevant for a long, long time as long as she's playing on the team. So the question for me is really what happens with those next group of teams. Are we going to see Flipside get enough better to really be in that conversation? What about Molly as their roster kind of like thin slightly, but still has so much talent? What about Bent? Could Sixers get back into the picture in a Worlds year? Because it's a Worlds qualifying year, so that tends to kind of like heat up rosters a little bit as teams want to get to WUCC. Now, obviously, Sixers' performance at Club USA Club Nationals is not relevant. They have their own Canadian championships to play, but I still think it tends to correlate with stronger years for those Canadian teams. So I'm really curious. I have to say, Keith, I think that it really is about those top 3 teams. Just looking at the quality of the roster, and like Flipside is really, they're super good, but they've just always been a step below these teams. I don't see that changing. Like nothing suggests that they're going to be noticeably better.
Also, the question then that leads to the next question of is Molly Brown outside of this group? I mean, putting them at number 6 to start the season is pretty bold for a team that's won a title in the past 3 seasons and has missed semis twice in 10 years, something like that. They're none of these other programs have anything even approaching the level of success in recent vintage. Sixers maybe has the best track record, but other than that, there's nobody touching Molly Brown aside from those top 3 teams. So if you're asserting those top 3 above them, and saying it's a big 3 year, you're writing off Molly Brown, and I think that I'm curious if it feels like that is short-sighted or if that's going to prove to be justified. I mean, this is still a team with the Cardenases and Claire Chastain and a deep group behind that. I'm not entirely sure they should be
Jesse
lumped in.
Schaffner. How about that?
Mhm.
That was an exciting announcement, and she could be a difference maker. I mean, she's going back to a team she's played with before. I just think they've had too much of an outflow of talent. Like, it's just, I think the depth has reduced a little bit, and it's just going to make it really hard for that team to be at that top tier. But the question is, like, if they make semis and then they get blown out in semis, let's say, does that still qualify them as being part of like the big 4 grouping? I'm not sure.
Probably not.
I mean, I think the fact
I
that
feel like
they're 6th in the power rankings right now tells you that we don't believe collectively that they're actually at that level. The top end is unquestioned, but I just don't know if they have enough down the roster.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like that trio of Flipside, Ben, and Molly Brown are fighting for that last semifinal spot. But I think potentially Molly Brown should be the favorite to achieve that, and maybe in most people's minds they are. Maybe by the end of the regular season or after U.S. Open or something, that's how it will feel. But it's hard for me to see. We've gotten pretty excited about some potential challengers in years past, and we haven't quite seen the breakthrough or the glow up that we thought we might see from a team like Riot, or the sustained success that we thought we might see from Phoenix or Sixers. So, like, is there really that team out there? I just don't. I'm not sure I see it.
I'm compelled by Riot, but like in 2 years.
But I feel like we've been saying that for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm just gonna keep saying it forever. 2 years. They're 2 years away, Keith. They're 2 years away. 2030. They're 2 years away. Look, I just think like the depth of quality on the top 3 teams is just outshines everyone else. That's really what it comes down to. Like Brute Squad adding Jimena Montaña, Liv Player, Grace Connerly, Annabelle White. I mean, they do lose a lot of really skilled European players that were on the roster last year. But I also, those players probably practiced almost not at all with the team. So how much does that actually impact their skill? Like, it might be better for them to kind of like regroup with primarily players who are living in the Boston area. We'll see. We'll see.
Based on what we know right now, I mean, are you marking Fury as your favorite? You think number one is the right spot for them?
I have to say yes. I mean, just based on what happened last season, and they're just they're relentless. Um, and it's not like their roster is like getting worse or anything like that. Um, look at the skill on
It,
this team. Who's new on the team this year? Uh,
I think Kalen Rolling's
Kalen
probably like
Rolling.
Buns Rolling is probably their biggest pickup. But last year, I think that we were a little underwhelmed by their class at this time last year, and they turned out to be excellent. And I think that it's possible that
Yep.
that brought me a lot of faith that they could take. You know, they have Katiana Hutchinson coming in, and a couple players from Mischief, Georgia
But just
Cardosa, Kai Gueros. Like,
yeah,
I think they could end up
the
turning
quality,
those
like,
into really high level players.
you know, KJ is playing so great. Finney coming off maybe a career year. Scazieri, such a great cutter. Anna Thompson could be one of the best players in the division this year, like early possible top 3 Pody candidate. They still have the depth, Dina. I don't know what you do against this team. Like, defensively, they're so good that it's just really hard for other teams to compete against them. Like, they have players that are just like defensive specialists, basically, that you don't even really talk about that much, who are just locking people up.
Yeah, and they have a great system and identity, and they're probably the best in the world at imparting that, it feels like, upon their players. Like, they bring
And let's
people
just give
in,
a
and everybody seems fury pilled.
let's give a big shout out to Cree Howard. I think we had her on the pod last year, right?
Mhm.
And done. Not playing this year. What a career! What a player!
Yeah, I mean, she and Serge Griffith both leaving the team, and they're, legends, like living legend players. And we're Cree obviously like a lifer for Fury, but both have a lot of accolades, and I'm sure are going to get their Hall of Fame plaudits.
Um, want to talk? I know you already talked PEC East. What was your number one takeaway as it relates to the season?
Oh man, rosters were so mixed up that it was it felt like it wasn't that telling, but I do think Parcha looked the part. Uh, they definitely have what it takes to contend for quarters. Based, they came out, they delivered some blows to good teams. They looked good doing it. It didn't look fluky or unsustainable. As other rosters fill out a little bit more, that could change things a bit. But I don't know that I learned that much. I mean, the fact that Bet won the tournament, even shorthanded, does speak to them being an elite tier team to my mind. But those are probably the biggest observations.
Yeah, Ben's going to be solid. They're going to be really good. I don't know if they're going to be able to get up to that top level, but they're still hunting for a semi spot, so that could happen this year. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to mixed. PEC,
Yeah,
Toro getting the win. The hype is real for Toro this season, Keith. They're picking up a lot of talent.
I'm holding strong. I'm diamond handsing. I'm diamond handsing my Toro hate. What's reverse diamond handsing? I'm not buying the stock yet. That's what I just like.
Reverse
I
diamond
I
handsing.
I forgot what I said when I said this. Who I said that I was like, I've been hurt before by this team. The talent is there, but like it feels like they've always underperformed that talent. Maybe in part because it's like a collection of good players, but they don't always they're not there's not a ton of continuity all the time. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm holding back, even though this was obviously a great performance for them, and they earned these wins. Like again, not feeling fluky, but this feels like I don't know what to take away from Hybrid's performance or Sprocket's performance, but maybe this
I,
is just like the way mixed is, and we're just used to these regular
uh,
season
I'm
shenanigans. But I
I'm
don't know. It
I'm
feels
not
like a
worried
wide
about
open year.
hybrid. I'm not worried about hybrid. I mean, I think it's always feels kind of wide open, but when push comes to shove, hybrid's still my championship favorite after last
It's hard
year,
to pick against
and
them.
like they're so talented. I
Stacked.
don't really know what to make of the fact that they kind of had a bad Sunday, but they beat Toro 15-10. So like I don't know, weird situation. Toro deservedly climbing the power rankings. Um, and I think that all those top teams in the top five, Shame, Dragon, BFG, now Toro, and Exist, all really good teams. But for me, Hybrid's still my championship favorite.
I think I'm with you on that. Even with the way the power rankings have shaken out, but and I do think that we've got a year in which it feels like there's a lot of teams that can compete. Sprocket was a big surprise team last year. The way things shake out, like we could see another team be a big surprise because I don't know that it feels like there's a ton of stability outside of this hybrid team. Like yes, the team Shame, Dragon, BFG exist. I think they're going to be top 8 seeds coming into the tournament and often be looked at to make probably top 6 seeds and looked at to make semifinals. But it's just not a foregone conclusion uh, with the way that this division feels like it's shaken out.
Yeah. I think the big thing is like you don't want to over index on PEC East. It's just so early in the season. A lot of teams don't even have real rosters yet. They don't have jerseys yet. They maybe haven't even practiced that much yet. Like it's data. You don't want to discard it, but you also don't want to overreact to late June. Like, let's talk after
Are
US
we?
Open about where things stand.
Are you reading my script? I'm almost positive that's my line usually, right? Like you're Mister like let's buy in. And
I'm the hot take.
I'm whoa. Let's take the middle ground. Thank you.
June is
It's
early. Hey,
June.
how about cricket? Cricket to slow. That was a surprise news for me today. Seeing that.
But doesn't it feel? I've heard this take, but doesn't it feel kind of fitting? Like this just feels like the
Yeah, he's
natural trend, the way that it should be.
Keith. I'm gonna say it. He's retiring to
Oh God.
mixed.
Oh God.
I
Hey,
don't care if people are mad. I don't care if people are mad. That's what's happening. It's fine. He's a great player. He's gonna be a great asset for that slow team. And I think they're a little undersold at ninth right now. I think they're going to be the best Boston team this year.
What if instead of retiring to mixed, he was just like slow cooking his way to be ready, to be ready for mixed. You can't come into mixed
he had to he had to
all
pay his
fresh.
dues in the open division.
Yeah, you gotta get there and
Sure.
get on that grind
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. Of course. Um, should be a really interesting year. What's Shame's deal this season?
I mean,
I can't remember if I've seen their roster yet.
their roster is out. They do have an
I'm
official
looking at it right now.
official
Yeah,
roster.
they got Blaise Sevier.
But
That's a nice pickup.
yes, it's a big pickup. They
They
got
don't
Cole
lose much.
Wallen, Connor Tabor, like they I don't know that I'd say they don't lose much per se. Owen Westbrook obviously is like very key for them. Uh, but they're still going to be. I still think they have one of the most talented rosters on paper, and
Yeah.
they have more continuity than a lot of other teams often do. So I think there's a lot of reason to be bullish on Shame.
I mean, remember, they were the big preseason favorites last year. And then they kind of had
Mhm.
a little bit of a championship hangover. And the thing is, they have a lot of continuity. There's no reason they can't just get back to that level. I think it's hard to go out and try to win back to back, you know?
Yeah, and I also think I mentioned Owen Westbrook being a key loss for them, but I think they have all the tools to replace what he was doing for them. I think they have plenty of other players who can operate as kind of the hub of a line. With Sarah Pesh and Simon Montague, who stepped into a big role last year. Like they're going to have people who can be the quarterback.
Yeah. I think we're going to learn so much at like US Open and even PEC West to an extent. Um, I think we're in for an exciting season in mixed as always. Any other thoughts here, Keith?
Well, BFG, I think another team that has a lot of big roster changes, and I think next week we may want to take some time to go over just kind of like the biggest pickups, the biggest names that moved in the offseason. But red flag giving up a lot of players to this BFG team.
Yes.
They also
Yes.
get Julia Hasbrook and Naomi Fina. So I think BFG got a pretty hefty reload. Now they lost some good players, Sadie Jezierski, Tommy
Yep.
Lee, Alexa Kirkland, Rio, Lucas Ambrose. That's a big one. Buns, who we already mentioned. Like there's a lot of changes for them. Uh, their roster's like, I don't know, 40% new players, but
Sadie could cook so hard for Exist. Exist an
yes.
interesting one. I'm
This
feeling
is why
even
I'm saying though
more.
that I think we have a very compelling season ahead of us in the mixed division.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can kind of
it should
talk
be
yourself
fun
into a lot of these teams
for sure.
potentially going head to head with hybrid or even upsetting.
All right, let's move to the men's division. And Pony certainly putting their name out there as a very serious championship contender with their performance at PEC East. Machine retains the number one spot in the power rankings, and I think understandably so. The talent level on this Machine roster this year is crazy. And I think we should probably just mention it right off the top. Pony, unfortunately, losing Calvin Brown for the season out with an ACL tear. Really sucks. Sorry to hear that for Calvin, and looking forward to him getting back healthy and should be back by next season as one of the more promising young handlers in the sport right now.
Yeah, and he was off to a great start with Pony, and part of the reason that it looks so good to start the year. So definitely unfortunate to hear that. Hopefully his recovery goes well. But Pony really throwing their hat into the ring with, to me, this division feels like it has a big three. Like Machine, Pony, Rhino feels like your big three in this division. No, I guess it's not fair of me to be like, no disrespect to Truck, Revolver, and Dig when I'm like straight up disrespecting them by saying that. But like those are three good teams. Not to say that I don't think they could make that move, but to me, the conversation starts with that top three.
Yeah, and I think understandably so. I mean, I know basically running it back. What they a
They
couple
have
of
like three
players, Owen
players
Murphy.
change. Yeah,
Yeah, they add Lucas Ambrose, which is a nice pickup. Nick Stewart playing this year with them. But they have such amazing young talent, along with sort of the established stars like Rafi. Um, I There's no reason they can't win again, besides the fact that it's really hard to win again. And we've seen that we have not had a repeat winner, and we say it every year, not had a repeat winner in the men's division since 2010. So we're now coming up on 2 decades without back-to-back champs. It's just really hard. I think for me, Machine is clearly the like A1 front runner. And I don't know, they were showing some cracks last year's at Nationals before Joe got hurt. But with Joe, plus the European imports, and just generally the overall talent level, and from what we've seen of much of that roster in the UFA so far, they've got to be considered the favorites. Even with the talent that we see on those other two of the big three.
I feel like picking up Nick Stewart is such like copy and paste picking up Matt Raynor last year energy. Just like, oh, it worked so well last year, might as well just do it again. um, I don't think we have an official Machine roster, but not you said European imports, but that leaves out Sam McGuckin, who's like
Fair.
what, the best player in Australia in the men's division, probably the second best player in any division after Cat Phillips, and Rutledge Smith, which are two pretty nice pickups. Uh, that I honestly think that like they could be insulated from losing a player like Joe White or another injury or whatever. Like they have backup elite offensive options. And yet it's worth noting that they lose OJ Samar, who's been like one of their best O-line players, and Chase Bruner has been one of their best D-line players. But so their roster isn't like totally run it back mode, but you know, Don DeMarais and Johnny Bansfield and Nate Goff and Keegan North and Paul Arters, like there's plenty here. They got young guys who are probably taking steps forward, like Will Wettengel. So yeah, they were definitely my number one coming into the year, and even seeing Pony play the way they have hasn't necessarily changed that.
Yeah, what did you make of Pony's play at PEC?
Yeah, they look good. It turns out that adding Ben Dameron and Anders Jugst is good for offenses.
It's
Who
good.
knew?
It's good.
And we talked about this last week, but like adding that to Kotcher and Sam Little, like gives their offense a really different mode of attack that feels a little more like Rhino truck stop inspired, small ball, quick movement. And I don't know if they necessarily had the personnel to make that their plan A last year. And this feels like it gives them the tools to do that, to play a little more modern style on offense. And that I think makes them dangerous because they'll still have what they used to do in the pocket, but that's going to make their O-line really juiced, I think.
And like Jimmy resurgence year, I see it. He's going to have to step up now with Calvin hurt. And I think, he doesn't have to be the player 5 years ago to still be super effective, especially with the rest of the personnel on this, probable O-line.
I can't say that I understand the narrative on here. Like, not to say that Jimmy can't play well, but like, weren't people saying he was washed like 2 years ago? He's too big of a defensive liability. You can't put him on the field. Can't cover anybody. Like, how's that guy? How does he undo being that? Did he?
They just turn it over less on offense.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I was never the Jimmy is washed hater guy, but I don't understand that general narrative here.
Well, I mean, this is going to be the question for them, right? Is like handler position. I guess, like what's going to be their backfield plan? I think that's on their O-line. That's going to be the question. Like, do you let Sam Little run it with Harper, and then like what role does Mickle have?
Don't forget they got
obviously you have
SRB
Saul
back.
Rushmar Bailey.
Yeah.
I know. I think they have a lot of choices, but I think that's going to be the question mark. And it's been the question mark for this team, but they clearly have plenty of talent. There's no reason they can't win another title. And I'm excited to see what they can do.
Who's the next most interesting team to you? Who's got the juice? After
Probably
the victory.
Revolver. Probably Revolver. I feel like they feel like they're back as a serious contender. Do we have a roster yet?
I don't think they've come out with an official roster, but we have, our back end roster.
Know basically what they're going to be. I mean, I just feel like we saw them take a big step last year, and they're now feeling like, to me, like they're ready to be a semis team. In fact, I personally think they should be ahead of Truck. I think Truck's going to be really solid, and I'm certainly not going to put too much stock in PEC because everybody was missing so many players. But I think losing Malks just is tough, and we've seen it with the DC Breeze, and I think that they're going to have a hard time dealing with that, even with the talent that they have. They're a really good team, don't get me wrong, but I just think they're that one step below those top four.
They feel like a team that doesn't have a lot of big name changes, and so people are just not really talking about them coming out of the offseason. But you think back to how they played last year and how much room for growth it felt like that team had, with Leo Gordon and Dexter Clyburn and RVB and Raekwon Atkins, Walker Frankenberg, Kyle Lue. Like, these are a lot of guys who have more upside to give. And yeah, they lose some guys who are good players. But you know, they I think expecting this team to take a step forward from where they were last year, and basically anywhere forward from where they are last year, makes them a title contender, in my opinion. I mean, there's
Yep.
no room between where they were last year and potentially winning a title
Title
to get
contention.
better.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're being overlooked. I agree.
AK in the chat says Machine and Truck won't make semis. Pony, Rhino, Revolver, and Sockeye are my semis picks.
AK's so lucky.
Sockeye's a bit of a hot take, right?
AK's so lucky there's not a Pennsylvania team to distract him from Pony. He didn't want to pick Pac-Man to make semis, I guess. But hey, AK gets hot sometimes, so you heard it from his mouth first.
Once again, I asked, do we have a Sockeye official roster yet? I haven't seen one, but I've been out on vacation, so I might have missed it.
I don't believe so.
Okay,
but I've probably lost track of the official roster drops too. But I don't think I've seen.
Can we just ulti razor it?
That's what we've been doing.
They're playing PEC West, so I guess we'll know soon enough, right?
I mean, they have an ulti razor roster. It says they're adding Malks and Troy Holland. I think I've heard that as well.
I mean, we knew Malks was moving to Seattle, so that's no surprise.
Those are really their big ads.
Okay.
Losing Xander Cuisinart Tice, Jasper Dean.
Okay. They're going to be good. I mean, you know, like Declan playing so well right now. They've still got, you know, veteran Trent. There's a lot to like. And their young players are starting to become like more experienced, stronger club level players. And so I think that makes them dangerous. I'm not sure I'm ready to call them a semis team, but I'm excited to see what they've got in the tank, and we'll get to learn some of that at PEC West. All right. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, I don't even know what we got on the other side. UFA,
PEC West, baby.
PEC West preview, and mailbag. Stay with us.
Different day. If I'm getting paid, then you know I'm on the way. Pushing PCH crib, feeling like a cage. TVs in the whip, and they playing Soul Train, yeah. Gold chain hanging from my chest. Rocking bell bottoms, baby boy, I'm the best. Platform shoes got me feeling top deck. On the yacht, I'm a hot girl, show me some respect. Yeah, I'm a dawn and you know it. I'm giving you a shot, show up, don't blow it. If I'm in my zone, don't stop me flowing. Gotta give me a moment, I'm a star, let me show it. Some people say I'm too far gone, but I'm right where I belong. They can't help but see me shine. I'm hella fly and my money long. Everybody wanna tag along. I'ma be that girl till I die.
Welcome back, Deep Look, and we are getting ready to talk about Pro Elite Challenge West. But first, we've got some small ball coming from the UFA, and also want to tell you about our friends Breakmark. Breakmark, it is their 20th anniversary. They're celebrating. They're doing Instagram giveaways, so make sure you're checking them out on Instagram. Get some free stuff. But they also just lowered the prices on a bunch of their core sublimated auto items. Their customers were telling them like, hey, sometimes I just want one thing or two things. I don't need the whole bundle, but the bundles have been so popular. So they met that demand. $30 shorts, $35 short sleeves, or reversibles. Those are sublimated items at those prices. Get the same great quality and same amazing customer service that you're used to with Breakmark, and that helps serve the PUL and WL this season. So make sure to check out our friends over at Breakmark. And if you were enjoying that halftime break with the under 24 highlights from the World Championships, and there were plenty of them, make sure you can check out the link in the description for the video, or check out their other content on the YouTube channel here. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, I don't know what you're doing. And if you haven't thumbs up the episode, make sure to drop a thumbs up. Or next time you play, one of your teammates is going to do that dumb thing where they pretend to like jump up and touch the pole, but they actually do touch the pole, and that's turnover. So if you don't want that to happen to you, make sure you hit the thumbs up.
Got to hit the thumbs up. Simple as that. All right. Let's get into the second segment here. We begin with a look at the UFA results from this past weekend, and the playoff picture is heating up, Keith. It's I'm getting ready for a couple of upcoming Empire games, and it is like do or die time for teams. There's a look at the current standings around the 4 divisions. Clear playoff teams in the West, clear playoff teams in the Central, and still pretty murky in the South and very murky in the East. Mostly favorites winning this weekend, Keith. Salt Lake continuing to look really good out west as they take down Colorado by 6 goals. Toronto, Montreal sort of just cannibalizing each other into oblivion. And I think the big thing for me is Chicago just destroying the wind chill. Are they the clear title favorites at this point, Keith? The last undefeated team.
Yeah, when you combine that with Boston losing to DC, maybe that does make them the clear favorites. They're still playing in the Central, so it's not the same level of competition as Boston. So I think I'd still be on Boston, but I can't really blame anybody that's looking at Chicago right now as the favorite. And like obviously in the power rankings, I would have them first.
What else stands out to you from this week's action?
You mentioned Colorado losing to Salt Lake, but they're much more secure, but they may have lost their chance to eventually move up in those West standings. I don't know what's going to happen in the South. Very, very unclear picture, like you mentioned there. And then, less last week and more what's coming this week, with Philly and New York playing. And that is, like you mentioned, like a preseason, pre-playoff game, play-in game. That's the word, play-in game, out there in the East.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually sat down and looked at all the scenarios yet, but obviously winning that game is going to be absolutely massive. New York has the win already, so even getting just having the head-to-head tiebreaker is key. So Phoenix have not looked nearly as good as they did at the beginning of the season. They're going to have to show up big on the road in New York if they want to go back to the playoffs. It's going to be a tough ask. I think obviously the Empire playing without Calvin Brown. That's a blow to their offense, but it's been like New York's looked a little bit better since they've started this homestand that they closed this season with, and they can't quite. I don't think they clinch with a win this weekend, but it essentially feels like winning in.
Yeah, I mean, we expected the East to provide drama, and it basically has all season long, aside from Boston being in the most secure position. But the other divisions are really coming more into shape now.
Yeah. As you look at those Central and West teams all locked up, and I think Salt Lake has not officially clinched the number 1 seed, but they're clear front runners to take the home field advantage and the 1 seed into the playoffs. Do you like both favorites to advance to championship weekend, Salt Lake and Chicago?
Chicago, I feel pretty good about based on the way that they're playing. It's hard for me to give up what the flashes we saw from Oakland earlier in the year. It makes Salt Lake feel a lot less safe, even though they've had success against Oakland when they matched up. But I still feel like Oakland's got an upset in them. Maybe I think you could argue they have the best chance of an upset. I mean, depending on what happens in the South, like who's the top team in the South. If Atlanta is not it, I think you'd look at Atlanta, but maybe Oakland is the best chance of pulling off an upset in divisional play of any team.
I think it's going to be a tough ask for Oakland to win on the road. I mean, they were my preseason pick, and they certainly have the talent. It's just that's going to be a big crowd in Salt Lake. The Shred have looked like the better team for the last, month at least. Tough call, but I think, if both teams bring full rosters, as I expect that they will, I think like on paper, they're pretty even, but the home field advantage for Salt Lake gives them the edge in my mind. Meanwhile, out east, DC with a pretty awesome upset, handing Boston their first loss. Rowan McDonald with the absolutely nasty forehand to get the big score late in that one after both teams went on big runs in the second half. DC taking the lead, Boston fighting all the way back. I still think Boston's the best team in this division, but clearly we now know the Glory are not invincible. And I still think any of the teams that get into the playoffs in the East could be the team that gets out and goes to championship weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're an East homer, so let the accusations fly, but that's been a pretty safe pick as of late. So I have trouble going against that idea.
Anything else on this weekend's UFA slate?
No, I think that just about covers it. We'll see what happens down the stretch here, in particularly the East and the South, where I think most of the attention is going to be focused.
All right, let's get on to the PEC West coming up this weekend. Why don't we kick things off with our streaming schedule, as we will be streaming 3 games around from PEC West, and looking forward to some super exciting games, as a lot of the teams that didn't play PEC East will be in action this weekend. Let's see. We're waiting on that schedule, so I'll just start talking about some of the teams that are playing. Fury, Flipside, Riot, Traffic, Schwa, your top 5 seeds in the women's division. In mix, you've got BFG, Dragon, Shame, Lawless, and Mixtape. And in men's, we've got Rhino, Revolver, Furious, Double Wide, and Sockeye. Keith, your thoughts? I'll let you start wherever you want.
Why don't we start this time in the men's division, where we just kind of talked about Rhino and Revolver as a potential challenger team, and I guess we're gonna get a chance to test that in the field, so to speak. Now it's July, but is it really that much later than it was for PECs? How much do you want to take away from that? But I think it'll be maybe even more interesting to see what I think Shrimp is in particular an interesting team. After what we saw from them last season, after what we saw from Utah teams during the college season, is this Shrimp team going to announce themselves as kind of taking that step forward that we've seen from teams like RDU and Vault, where they're a top 12 to 14 team and really feel like a threat to make quarters. I think that might be one of the most interesting things to see from the men's division here.
Definitely. I think, how does Sockeye look? Shrimp adding some interesting players this season. There's been a little bit of how good can they be? They're definitely going to, they're a team that needs to earn a bid, right? That's the other thing to keep in mind with some of these early tournaments. They mean more to the borderline teams than they do to the teams that go to nationals every year. So I'll be curious to see how they do. But that's for me the big stuff. I'm most interested in seeing Rhino, Revolver, Sockeye, and Shrimp, and how they play will tell me a lot. Could Double Wide be interesting this year? I guess we'll find out.
I think if you're going to be interested in Shrimp, you kind of have to be interested in Furious, right? Because
they're in the same region.
I mean, Yeah, and they're like probably going to be vying for a spot at nationals when it comes down to it. So,
Sure.
I guess by that token, you gotta be curious about what Furious is bringing to the table.
Ready for some Max Pettinuzzo action after how well he played at U24s.
I love that our fellow podcast host Theo Juan has really taken to the nickname Max Pepperoni, and that I think it even made its way into the U24 broadcasts. I think it's sticking.
Max Charles says the auto bid is enough. I guess that was probably in relation to the Philly team. So I don't think he's talking shrimp. He's talking Pac-Men, which we didn't talk about, but they're going to be good. All right. So in the women's division, Fury, Flipside, Riot, Traffic, Schwa. Flipside probably the team to watch this weekend. Like, how do they look relative to the rest of these teams, particularly Riot, but also Fury, a team that has kind of had their number. And even though Flipside plays them within like 2 goals every single time they play, they never seem to win. I'm not sure Flipside's ever beaten Fury.
I don't think so. Maybe once, but I don't think so. But I feel like my attention gets drawn to further down the line to see what some of these other teams have to offer. Is this Nemesis team going to be able to compete? Because now they have, we actually didn't talk about this in our preview, but with the regional redraw, they have Sixers in the Great Lakes now. And so they've kind of been the top dog in the region. And now it's a different kind of deal for their regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need a bid. And so this is an important tournament for them. But also, could a team like Schwa or Dark Sky, excuse me, could these Northwest teams, we've seen one of them pop up before. We're going to get a much better sense of where the Northwest competitive group is at with Riot, Traffic, Schwa, and Dark Sky all in attendance.
Fury is 11-1 against Flipside. Flipside beat them 15-9 at PEC West in 2023. So don't get too hyped up if they beat them again here in 2025. But man, a lot of close games between those two teams.
Strong programs, of course. So for a lot of familiarity, some crossover. I get what you're saying. I mean, watching them match up is going to be very telling, I think, about Flipside in some ways. But I think those teams are focused on the long term in a way that some of these other teams might not be able to afford to be.
100%. All right, let's take a quick look at the mixed division. BFG, the 1 seed, Dragon, Shame, Lawless, rounding out the top seeds. Obviously, a lot of attention will be on those top 3 teams and how they match up against one another once they get to the bracket. But I do think that there's some interesting storylines down the board, like who emerges from the rest of the pack as looking like they're going to have an up year. How good is Lawless? What is Tower going to look like in 2025? How about these Bay Area teams that seem like maybe they're going to be getting a little bit better? I feel like Mischief could have a good year. So I'm curious to see what happens down the board, but obviously we've got 3 real heavy hitters at the top.
Yeah, with 3 of them, it feels a little more like you might find out more about them. I think Mischief is another team I'm really curious about. But as is typical of the mixed division, any of these teams I feel like could go out and upset somebody. Lawless had a lot of turnover this year. You mentioned Tower. Robin is back with them, but the rest of the roster has a lot of turnover. Like, can they repeat what they were able to do last year? Mixtapes undergoing some changes. There's plenty to chew on in the mixed division, and I don't know that we're gonna get the dust. Certainly isn't going to settle after this weekend, but I do expect there to be some changes. You're not going to get chalk, I think, on the mixed division.
All right, should we make our picks and then look at the streaming schedule?
Let's look at the schedule, then do our picks. How about that?
Okay, streaming schedule first. It is decided. Here it is. We open things up 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. We've got one game per division in every round. So Riot and Nightlock, Lawless and Noise, Furious and Darkstar, round 1. Then round 2, we've got Traffic and Schwa, Dragon versus Tower, Revolver versus Shrimp. Revolver Shrimp, yes, I love it. And then we go on to a couple of rounds of pre-quarters and crossover games, and then on to the bracket on Sunday. So not a ton, because they're playing I think they're playing clip brackets, right? So they're
Yeah.
Is that true? No, they're playing 3-team pools.
They're playing 3-team pools, so there's not a lot of pre-established matchups.
Not a lot of pool play games, yeah. So we don't know what a lot of matchups are going to be, but obviously we're going to see lots of teams this weekend, and a great opener for the teams on the West Coast. Any of those ones stand out to you? Those 6 that we know about?
Well, Revolver Shrimp, really the whole round 2. I mean, that is definitely on this 6-game schedule where you're gonna want to tune in, because finding out what Tower, these Northwest Women's Division teams, and how Shrimp looks like, those are the questions that we're looking to answer.
All right, picks. Let's go. Finals winner.
All right. Let's pick up, I guess, where we were last in the mixed division. Give me, man, do I really want to, how big an upset do I want to go here? Let me get Shame. It's hard. It's also hard to track who's going to play who with the crossover games. Give me
True.
Shame over Mischief.
Over Mischief? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we just watched Hybrid and Sprocket lose in early season events. Like, why?
Fair.
Dragon suffer the same kind of fate.
I'm going to be more boring. I'm going to say BFG over Shame.
All right.
That feels like a real toss-up to me. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to go Shame over BFG or BFG over Shame, but I'll take BFG in the early going. Men's division.
I'm down.
I'm going
I'm kind of on the traditional me there.
I'm going Revolver over Rhino.
I'll flip that. I'll take Rhino over Revolver. Here I'll go a little chalky.
Okay. We like the same teams to finals though. PEC West women's. I guess you're first, Keith.
I mean, I'm definitely taking Fury to win.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Do I think Riot or Traffic could really take that leap over Flipside? It is early in the season, but even I don't know about all that. Yeah, I think I might have to run back to chalk and take Fury over Flipside.
Do I really think No, you know what? Do I really think Riot can beat Flipside? No. I'm going to take Fury over Flipside as well.
I think Riot can be Flipside. I'm just not willing to bet on it.
Yeah. I agree. Note, it's going to be hot in Oregon this weekend. 90 on Saturday, 93 on Sunday. We could have games get impacted. We've seen this a lot more in the club season. They're doing the wet bulb globe temp thing and like full sun, mid 90s. We could see games get, heat timeouts, and who knows? It's a little TBD, but this is just the reality of playing summertime Ultimate now.
Yeah, I mean, you said in Oregon, it's going to be hot everywhere, basically. I think SFI is also under some heat concerns. That's taking place in Virginia this weekend, SFI East. So we will see a couple more intriguing teams take the field, like Khalif El Salam with California Burrito in the mixed division. Goat and Vault, I think, are in the men's division. And in the women's division, Bent, Iris, Mostly just like the East Coast and Central teams, but some teams to keep an eye on. The only ranked action won't be at just PEC West.
Yeah, Fredericksburg weather, high 80s. So hot, but maybe not oppressive. Although with the dew point likely to be high, it can feel quite uncomfortable, and obviously that affects wet bulb globe temp. I don't totally understand how that all gets calculated, but the humidity does definitely play a role. Big weekend for Club Ultimate. We'll get a lot more information heading into next week, and then we're just a couple of weeks away from the U.S. Open, where we really get to watch the top teams go head to head for the first time. Some big UFA weekends to come as well, so make sure you stay tuned in to what's going on there. And we've got our mailbag question of the week before we wrap things up today. Keith, what do we got?
All right, this question comes in from Josh. If you took the U.S. U24 teams and replaced them with Carlton Cutt and Carlton Syzygy, how would they do at under 24 Worlds? How do you think that if the national, we didn't take UBC because they wouldn't be the national champion?
They weren't a U.S. team, yeah,
right. So how would the top U.S. teams do if they were just sent directly to Worlds?
So Syzygy and Cutt. I honestly think Cutt wins. I think Cutt wins. Is that crazy?
I don't know about crazy.
I wonder if they would have lost that Italy game. Might have lost that Italy game. I mean, you have to keep in mind that they have all this practice together that the actual U24 teams don't have. So that helps. Syzygy. Do they win? Like, our teams were so far ahead of the field that, like, even if you reduce the talent level, but it's not like Cutt and Syzygy aren't super good. I think Syzygy wins too, but really close. Would this be a better system for U24s?
Not for anywhere else. Maybe for ours. I don't think that. I think they might like lose in the finals. But that's obviously still pretty good. I actually did this question last week, but Charlie has not yet done this one. So give Charlie a chance.
Oh, what did you say? Yeah, you read the wrong question, Keith. How did you not remember you'd answered it last week?
I knew I answered it last week. I thought it was like we didn't have another question. So
gotcha.
It was still my bad. I thought it was someone else's bad.
Let's do the bonus question because we have our actual mailbag question. I'll let you answer first.
What was the peak year of Ultimate?
Yeah, this one coming from Tony and he's bearish.
He has a firm answer, right?
Well, I don't know if he has a firm answer, but he said like he thinks that all the pro leagues are cooked. The fun summer tournaments are already dying or dead. We didn't mention, but Sunbreak in its final season. Not a lot of people watching the streams. We're losing ground to lacrosse and flag football.
I think this is his like apocalyptic future that he's envisioning. Like what will we look back on as the peak year?
Right. So I guess there's two questions baked in here. Was the peak in the past, number one? And number two, is this really pessimistic view accurate?
Well,
lean forward and talk into your mic so we can all hear you.
I'm thinking.
I know.
I gotta say that like the days in which the Olympic dream felt achievable, there was a certain amount of hope around the potential for explosive growth in Ultimate that I feel like colors my view of that time as being like, wow, this is when we're on the growth trajectory. We're on the upward climb. And with that fire feeling a bit more extinguished these days, back then we were like, you had the World Games in Colombia, and you got 10,000 people in a stadium watching Ultimate. Like, I don't know, man. Could that be the peak? Could we have peaked then?
Listen, COVID has been really tough on the sport, as we know. However, I think things are in a much better place than it may feel at times. The fact that we still have semi-pro leagues that exist, and in the case of the UFA has now lasted 13 years, is a positive signal. Yes. And we're starting to see signs of growth again, both in like USAU membership numbers, but also in like high school participation starting to bounce back a little bit after COVID. And look at U24s. I mean, I know that the tournament wasn't fully competitive because the US just, we have a league to develop players between the ages of 18 and 24 that is so robust and strong, and like we just are going to lap the world forever at this age group unless they have a hyper concentration of youth talent that they all put on one team. But the French had that chance and they didn't take it. I was dumb and wrong, but that's what they did. So obviously it's not like that competitive, but there were so many teams there. We're seeing like bigger international tournaments than we've ever seen. Europe, I feel like things are going quite well. Like there's more teams, there's more participation. I don't really love the like hyper concentration of talent onto a couple of teams that we're starting to see at their highest levels. But I don't know. That just seems to happen in sports, doesn't it? I overall feel like things are back trending in the right direction. Now, whether we are currently at a peak, I don't know, because we've had to kind of deal with the baggage of COVID on the sport and how much that set things back. But if we're not at a peak, we're close to a peak. And so then my like answer for what was the previous peak was probably like 2019. Like I think the sport has continued to grow for a while, and maybe it doesn't feel anecdotally like it's as in as good as a spot because we had ESPN and Olympic Dream and Tom Crawford and all these things that sort of felt like there was this big movement. But like from a raw standpoint of like grassroots of the sport, there's more local disc orgs that have established staff. There's more places where like high school is growing again instead of shrinking post-COVID. So I think there's still lots of work to do, don't get me wrong. And I think that we could sure use some like USAU like excitement. They need to do some stuff to get people excited again and not just go through the motions of doing the same things every single year. That makes it feel stagnant even when it's not.
Yeah, they should just blow up the TCT and then like this is I play video games, like sports video games, and they like I don't play Madden, but one of the things people accuse Madden of is removing features and then just bringing them back like 5 years later, and then they're like brand new, and it's like, wait, you just renamed the thing that you took away before that. Just start doing that. Like at least make it feel like new stuff is happening.
Yeah, I just feel like everything's so slow to make changes. Like the TCT needs a shakeup, and we need to like make club nationals more of a festival vibe and like make it fun to attend and not have the finals on the ugliest field you've ever seen in your life. And like there's lots of little things that need to get better.
Under the lights, please.
I know. I feel like I've already lost that one, but you're not wrong.
Look, this is why we have to get Kevin on the show, losing the picks competition, so that we can get some weight to throw around here. That's what
Rico says we need a new DLC.
I would like to change my answer to whatever year it was that Michael B. Jordan put out that like 10-minute video of him playing Ultimate with his friends in the park. That was peak. It will not be that good again. That was it. Love that guy.
Yeah, I understand the vibe session that we're having right now. But I think in a way there was like too much optimism and like buzz 10 years ago relative to where things stood, and now like the reality is better than the perception. So I do want to say that I still think we have a lot of work to do to get things moving in the right direction and feel like they're moving in the right direction again. Given that things have felt pretty stagnant from like a USAU perspective for a long time, like 10 years long.
We need another tour. We had This Diversity. We had Eurostars. We had the All-Star. We had Next Gen. It's time. We need a new tour.
Is it time? I don't know. I feel like I'd rather see like
we're missing.
pro league consolidation and like improving the game day experience and like making it more fun to follow those leagues, because I think that's where we can actually start to like get outside people interested in watching the game. And then we just need so much work at the youth levels to really like we got to take what's going on in Minnesota and export.
Rico says we need you to DJ nationals.
There we go. That'd be hype though.
That would be another good bet for Kevin Erlenbach.
Who doesn't Flipside? Flipside throws a party, right? Flipside, email me. I'll DJ as long as the party is on Sunday night, which I know sucks, and everyone's just going to go to the Saturday night party that I can't do because I have to work Sunday morning. All right, I think that's it for this edition of Deep Look. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscriber bonus segment. I'm going to be talking a little bit about U24 Worlds and behind the scenes, because there was some crazy stuff going on. So I'll talk about it, and Keith will ask me questions, and you can ask me questions in the chat live in the Ulti-World Discord, which you can join with any level of subscription. So get yourself standard, all access, mini, whatever you want. Join us in our sub bonus segment. For Keith Raynor, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we will talk to you in the sub bonus in mere minutes right here on Deep Look. Patrick Bailey walk-off inside the park home run. First time a catcher's done it in 99 years. Go Giants.